Let's go over the pros and cons for using potting soil with a sand cap in your planted aquarium. I recommend researching what potting soil to use prior to getting it. You don't want any bark or added fertilizer in it. For that reason, organic potting soil is the safest. So let's go over the pros and cons of this substrate setup. First are the pros. The biggest pro and why it's better than sand alone is the CEC, but it's mainly describing the substrate's ability to store nutrients within it so that plants can then utilize them. This gives them a secondary and consistent nutrient source for your plants, so they don't have to rely on the water column alone. The second pro, and why it's a more feasible substrate option for most people, is its cost. Compared to aquasoil alone, it is quite a cheap option, making it more affordable and feasible for new aquarists. Another pro is that you can usually buy it in stores, which isn't the case for many high-end aquasoil brands. And now for the cons of this substrate option. There are only two cons for this substrate setup. The first is the mess that it can produce. When capped with more sand, the mess that it produces can be lessened. This is because the mess will mainly occur when you uproot plants. This is because the soil sticks to the roots of the plants, and when you uproot a plant stem, some of the soil will stick to the roots and become dislodged above the sand bed, and it will then enter the water column and make a mess. There is a technique where you vibrate the tongs while you pull the plant up. This will cause friction between the sand and soil, causing the soil to dislodge below the sand bed instead of above it. This would be the primary way to get past this con for the substrate option, but it does take a little practice to get it down. The one unavoidable downside is the sand. With soil underneath, you cannot effectively sift the sand like you could in a sand-only tank. And as a result, if you don't have a substrate cleaning invertebrate such as Malaysian trumpet snails, the sand will eventually become dirty and become prone to cyanobacteria, which occurs when you have excess waste in your sand. This can cause the substrate to become unsightly at times. But from a practical point of view, there really isn't any downside to the substrate option. This is a good option if you're on a budget and don't mind the extra cleaning from dislodged soil.